So you may notice that so many people have been moving abroad lately or talking about moving abroad or having the desire to move abroad, right? Some people call it, the mass exodus or, a mass migration happening, especially from people from the Western world, whether from the United States, Canada, UK. You have a lot of Aussies too, but I'm mostly talking about people from the United States of America and also the UK too. And you may notice that and you're probably going, I wonder why so many people, especially why so many women, Black women in particular, because I'm a Black woman, so I can relate a lot to Black women. So I'm going to speak on that. Why are so many women, why are so many Black women moving abroad? And in today's video, I kind of want to talk about that, from the get-go. Number one, being the strong Black woman is not necessarily a lifestyle, right? It's survival in a sense where being in the US, you're seen as a Black woman in the US, you're seen as the fix-it person. You fix everything in the workplace, even though you still experience microaggression in the workplace, you're still seen as, oh, you fix everything. You're expected to work, to grind, to always hustle, to raise the kids, to do everything yourself, right? The strong Black woman. And I think this concept of the strong Black woman as well is one of the reasons why I think sometimes I'm going to talk about this is because I just did a video about maternity and stuff like that, mortality, the high mortality rate with Black women. I think one of the reasons for that in the healthcare system is because somehow they think that Black women feel less pain or something like that. And, you're just expected to be strong, through it all, through all the problems, to just be strong, right? All the time. You're expected to smile throughout all the burnout. But abroad, a lot of women, what they experience living abroad is a much more softer, calmer, supported lifestyle. And I can speak to that personally as someone who has been living abroad now for over a year with my family. I feel way more supported. Like motherhood does not feel, which I'll get into this in a bit, but motherhood doesn't feel such a strain, right? Whether in my household or even outside of the household, people understand that babies either cry or whichever, and they will try to help you out. They'll rally around you versus just looking at you crazy. Like, what is going on? What are you doing? You feel so much more supported in an environment that supports family, that's family friendly. So I think one of the reasons, which I'm going to go down this list of one of the reasons why I personally believe that a lot of Black women are moving abroad, right? One of those reasons is because they're tired of this whole strong Black woman narrative. Black women are ready to just be, just be and just embrace stillness and calmness and peace. I think that's one of the main reason why a lot of women are moving abroad. They are just tired of feeling burnt out, raising their family, raising children and all of this with limited support. Because even in the US, there's no real like maternity support. I don't understand how after all these years they don't realize that they need better maternity support in the US for like the average family. And number two, okay, because maternity care family may not pertain to you because you're probably someone who you may not have a family, you may not care to having children. Some of you may be able to relate to. You also have the cost of living, right? Which is becoming an oppression on its own, like for the average family. The other day I looked at a statistics, right, of a map of the United States of what the average family requires to live comfortably in the US. And I think the lowest amount was like 200 and something $1,000 for one particular state. Most of the states were like well over 200,000. Most of them were over $200,000. Nothing is necessarily wrong with that in a sense, except what the average person makes, even people with bachelor's and master's degrees. So that's what does not make sense, right? You have college students graduating from college. They spend all of this money to go to college. They learn all of these things. But when it's time to get an actual job, they either can't get a job or they can't get a good paying job that makes sense based on the cost of living. So I understand if the average cost of living is about 200,000, but the average person makes around 250,000 or something like that, that would make sense. Or household, I should say. So two people household. Maybe one person is making that, or between two people, they may end up making that. But the average person is making, 60,000, sometimes 50. There are companies who still want to pay people $50,000, people with degrees. So that does not necessarily make sense, because it's like, how do you pay $2,500 per month, let's say, rent, pay back your college loans, have a car, because most places in the US, right, requires you to have a car and pay car insurance. You may buy a used car, but hey, you still have to pay maybe a couple hundred of dollars for health insurance. I mean, for car insurance. And let's not talk about health insurance, right? So I'm talking about the average people here. I'm not talking about multimillionaires. I understand that recession or inflation, things like that may not necessarily affect certain wealthy people. And I'm not talking about people who are making multi-millions. I'm talking about people who are starting out, starting to raise their family. They have average jobs. I'm talking about those people, right? Just does not economically make sense. And so people are drained by this, right? Between rent, groceries, childcare. I mean, forget childcare in the US. For us, while we were in the US, I was pretty much home-based business. My husband went out to work, and then at some point he was able to get a more remote job, and he was also at home for a bit. And so I also did not want to put my child in like an external childcare system for different reasons, because I don't necessarily really trust it, but also it's sometimes not the best. And then you pay so much money per month, right? So if you look at the average person, sometimes it makes sense for the mom to just stay home, right? Whether you have a business or not, just stay home versus paying $2,000 a month just for childcare, sometimes. But anyway, that's beside the point. But from rent, groceries, childcare, healthcare, everything is rising, but people's pay aren't increasing. So that does not necessarily make sense. You have people renting boxes, one bedroom apartments for close to $2,000 in certain areas. It just does not make sense. The cost of food, to do things, to just live a good life, costs a lot in the US for most families, right? And so even, between my husband and I, at one point, I, was in a career, my flight attendant career, US Air Force Reserve. Also, my businesses and my husband working, we had like decent income, but at the same time, it's like, compare that to what things actually cost. And with us being on a fire journey, financial independence, retire early, like we want to retire early. We don't want to be working forever, right? Based on that, it's like, it would be harder to achieve that, right? We would have to make a lot of sacrifices long term, and making sacrifices is not such a bad thing, but to have to make sacrifices plus cut back on a lot of things that just may be necessary for you to just live a good life is just, not what we wanted. But outside of the cost of living is one thing. And like I said, it may not affect some people that much, if you're on the higher scale of income. But the cost of living is one thing, but it's the experiences. The experiences is another thing. You have the high cost of living, but you're not getting the quality. You're not getting the good quality of living. I mean, you're simply not, okay? Here, for example, in Thailand, I mean, you can go out, you can get, go to a five-star dining experience, and you're getting that five-star dining experience. Then you probably can go get a massage after that. You probably can have help in your home, whether a full-time cleaner, a full-time cook, a full-time nanny, whichever. It just makes sense. And this is not just for international people or foreigners who, come to these different countries and hire help. This is for locals. Okay. The local people have help. The local people have nannies. The local people have dog walkers. Okay. In my community, in the community village that I live in, almost every home has a helper. I don't know what home. We know most of the people that live in our community village, and it's a decent sized community village. And most people has like somebody who washes and cleans, or if they have children, they'll have like, a nanny or somebody who helps watches the children. They have some type of support in their household, somebody who's washing their cars, somebody who is walking their dogs, watering their plants. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but believe me when I tell you, okay, it is the norm. And not just in Asia or Southeast Asia. There are some countries as well in Africa, some African countries, like even Kenya, you will have certain homes that are built to have like a maid's quarter or something like that for somebody to who will come in your home to clean, to wash, whichever. Because in other cultures, they understand and they believing and they embrace support, they embrace help. In the US is like, every man is an island, you do it on your own, right? And so going back to cost, right? So not just the cost of living, of course, but like the quality that you get. So what you pay in different parts of the world, in different countries, different countries in Africa, different countries in Asia in general, Southeast Asia to be specific, what you pay and what you get is it just makes sense. It just makes sense even for the locals. So I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of women are moving abroad. They realize that, hey, I can get a better quality of life. If I'm going to pay all this money, okay, I'd rather take this money elsewhere and I will pay the same amount of money. There are some people who the cost of living is not even really affecting them. You have wealthy people who have decided to move abroad. And this is what most people don't realize. But there are wealthy people who have decided to leave the US because the quality of life is just not there. It's just simply not there. So it's not just budget people or budget travelers or middle income earners or below middle income earners who have the desire to or who are moving abroad, but it's wealthy people as well who realize, "Oh, I can live in this beautiful home on the beach and have all of these experiences and keep more of my money or just have a better quality of living." For us, we live in somewhat of a traditional Thai home. It's 3 stories, 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, or 3.5 bathroom. We have support in our home. We eat out when we feel like eating out. We get massages. We have great experiences. Healthcare is also affordable here. And we live a good life on a reasonable income. You know what I mean? We live a good life, right? On less than what it required us to live in the US, which has been really, really nice because that will help us towards our fire journey. Another reason is back to motherhood is that, like I said, motherhood in the US feels somewhat like a punishment, right? And so women don't want to feel like they're being punished just because they decided to become mothers, right? Becoming a mother, raising a child, raising the next generation is such a beautiful, honorable thing, if that's something that you decide to do. But the US just does not have good support, maternity support. No real communities, the expensive childcare. And not only that, but women are expected to go back to work as soon as I don't know how what 8 weeks after giving birth or something like that. Like, what about the breastfeeding moms? I know this may sound crazy, but and some of you are like, okay, 8 weeks should be enough time to get back to work. If you're a mom, you know. If you've ever been a breastfeeding mom, you know. There are some countries that actually give moms like an entire year to I think up to like 2 years off of maternity leave. Yes. Okay. Because they understand. They understand. Like 8 weeks doesn't do anything. Like 8 weeks, you're just kind of getting into a routine. If you're breastfeeding, I mean, what are you going to do? Be at work pumping, right? It's like at one point I was doing that when I was doing my last annual tour in the Air Force last year. And fortunately, they were understanding, like, my head up, like, okay, take whatever time you need, to like pump and stuff like that. But it was still hard because I'm pumping and then I have this milk that I have to make sure that is preserved by the time I get home. Different things like that. You know what I mean? The US health maternity support system is almost non-existent. They expect that woman should just get back to work in the workplace after 8 weeks, and that's that. Also, with fathers, they're expected to get back to work in a even much shorter period of time because I guess they don't think that there are men out there who actually really support their spouses after childbirth, I guess. I know there is this thing where there are a lot of, like, I guess, deadbeat dads out there. And so maybe that's why they don't think that men deserve to have quality time. But there are some really good men out there. My husband is a great husband. He's a phenomenal father, a phenomenal husband, very present, very supportive. And men like him should get quality time as well postpartum, with their spouses. So, yeah, the US does not necessarily offer good maternity support. But abroad, you can have a gentle postpartum experience, motherhood experience, postpartum care, postpartum support. I just did a video earlier, which I will do another video following up on that, sharing some things here in Southeast Asia, here in Asia in general. They believe that the first 30 days postpartum is very crucial. Okay. Women should be supported. They should be well rested. They should be well cared for. They should not even wash their hair. They should be drinking herbal teas throughout the day that you don't even have to make yourself, honey. Okay. You should have support with your baby, having somebody wash your baby, change your baby, help you with feeding so that you can be well rested, calm, relaxed, not stressed. You should get massages. They have this thing here called Yo Fire, which is like a postpartum massage care service cycle program that they take you through to help you recover. When I tell you, Asia, they don't play with postpartum here, okay? And they make it so affordable for women. And who do you think are utilizing these services? Asian women, okay? It's affordable for them. So, yes, it's affordable for everybody as well, right? So, I say that because there's this stigma where a lot of people say, I won't say stigma, but let me just slow down so that I can choose my words carefully. But there is this, idea that only foreigners who come abroad, move abroad to like countries within Asia or countries in Africa live a good life because they're coming with the US dollars. But I want you to understand and I want you to know that there are locals within their own country that live very well. When we go to Malaysia, we mostly see Malaysians, right? Which Malaysia is like kind of multicultural, but people live really good lives. People live in great condos, their kids interact with each other, they eat well, like they live well. Okay. And so I want more people to realize and understand that the locals in their own country do well too. I understand that the US dollar definitely will go further, especially if you're making more money than what a local would make. It can go a lot further, but there are locals who also do well in their own country. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But back to the maternity and postpartum care, it is a big thing in Asia. It's a big thing in Southeast Asia. Women are supported here, okay? And they believe that women should be supported. So women are like, I want that experience. I want that experience. I want to breathe. I want to feel supported. Okay. I don't want to feel like I have to be doing it all. I don't want to continue to feel like I have to be this strong Black woman. Yeah, with this yes, what they call it is the confinement period. It's like a confinement period where you really bond with your baby, but you also get support. You're not running around trying to do 1,000 things. You get to really be relaxed, be with your baby, and when you need to rest, you can hand the baby off to one of the uh, postpartum nannies or postpartum nurses, and you get to rest and know that your baby is in good hands. Okay, that is a thing here that actually exists. okay, affordably. So if you plan to give birth, maybe you should rethink giving birth in the US. I'm a true advocate for that, okay? And if that's what's delaying your move, like maybe you are a family, because I know all the things that women are thinking, okay? You want to start a family, you probably just got married and you're like, "Oh, but we want to start a family in 2 years or 3 years. Is it possible to give birth overseas? How is the healthcare going to be?" Trust me, just do your research, all right, and go to a country that has great healthcare infrastructure, great healthcare. Okay, I do know that Thailand has, and a lot of Asian countries have great healthcare. Malaysia has great healthcare. Just do your research and know that you can give birth abroad too. Know that there are women giving birth every single day all over the world, not just the US. And you best believe that you're probably going to have a better experience abroad than in the US. So I want to throw that out there. Don't let giving birth be the reason why you delay or postpone your move abroad. Okay, because you will have way better support, I'm telling you, abroad. All right. So that's another thing. Another thing is to remote income is changing the game. People are figuring out different ways to make remote income, whether that is packaging their expertise in a digital product, whether that's a playbook, a ebook, a training, like teaching people how to do what you have already done and mastered, educating people. People are packaging their expertise. That's a big thing. And that's something that I have done as well before. And I still continue to do, amongst other things. People love to learn from people who have already done what they want to do. Okay. And who better to learn from than someone who's already done it? You're not going to learn these things in college. Okay. So that is a great way. The education economy, would I say education economy? Mm, I guess the education creator economy, I would say, is a growing one. But people are figuring out how to earn income online. There are a lot more remote jobs, with what happened in 2020. People realize that there are a lot of jobs that could actually turn remote, right? And so people are realizing that they can actually create remote income and live abroad so that they don't have to be tied to a job workplace, a physical workplace in the US, but they could do some of the same things, or they can do some of the same things that they were doing in the US, do it remotely and take it abroad. Okay. So once you have learned how to monetize your skills, create digital products, or just run a remote business, because there's some businesses that may have a physical presence in the US, but you may know, or, you may figure out how to run that physical business remotely with your teams. That's also a thing. And there are people who live abroad now that have physical location types of businesses that they're able to do it abroad. The things that I do for income is being a remote money lender, right? I connect small businesses all across the US to lenders. And when they get funded, right, when they get a business loan, whether to fund your business project, buy more inventory, expand payroll, whichever, or even if it's a real estate investor, like a real estate investor looking to invest in like commercial properties, things like that. When the loan gets funded, I get a percentage, I get paid. So that's one of the things that I do as well. And this is one of the things that I've been helping women do, start their own remote loan businesses. Also, not just helping them do it, but we also offer a done for you type of like software setup aspect of the business where we set everything up, all of the back end so that the business can run smoothly, implementing a virtual assistant to help with the business. So we have an entire like done for you aspect of the business as well, helping other people launch their remote money lending businesses. So once you have figured out a way to make money remotely, make money online, the sky is the limit. You can move anywhere. So more women are realizing that and more women are tapping into that. Another thing is more people are realizing, especially women are realizing that safety, peace, softness, they aren't necessarily luxury, but they are basic human rights. See, here's the thing. Once you have traveled outside of the US and you see the things that you see, you can't unsee it. And with living abroad for over a year now, this is not the first time I have traveled overseas. I've actually been across 5 different continents, countless cities, really well over 100 cities, and about 30 countries before deciding to move abroad. And once you have seen a different type of living, different cultures, just a different way of life, it is hard to unsee. And once you've seen that, you realize I could actually live a softer life. I can connect with people easier. There's just so much that you learn once you leave the United States. Right. And I'm also someone who was actually born and raised in Jamaica. I spent most of my childhood in Jamaica and all of my adult life in the US. And so I have that perspective, that cultural shift. I experienced my first culture shock, I would say, moving to the US, and I knew something was off. It's like one of those things where it's like, okay, you get to see what everybody's talking about. But then it was just like, oh, but this is not really what it seemed like everybody was talking about. You know what I mean? You know. And so, yeah, that was my first culture shock. But once you have experienced life outside of the US, you realize that there's not actually one way to live. There's actually not one way to be. And you can have a lot more safety. You can have a lot more peace as well outside of the US. A lot of Black women in the US feel unsafe. They feel over policed. They feel overlooked. They feel unheard in the US. You go into a store and I used to do this. It's crazy, but I didn't realize that I used to do this, where I would be in a store, and because there's always this stigma that, Black people are going to steal something in the store and then you're being followed and stuff like that. You're in a store and your phone may ring, or you probably want to go into your bag to look at your phone or something like that, right? And I would be so scared if I'm in an aisle, especially when there's nobody really in the aisle. I'll be so scared to go in my purse to like take out my bag or put something in my bag because I don't want to be perceived that I am stealing something or trying to steal something. Now imagine that, like always being so conscious and so aware that maybe you're being misjudged. Maybe you're being stereotyped. And I used to do that a lot because it was a thing. It is a thing in the US. And you'll see some of these videos where Black people are followed the most, or they suspect a Black person stealing something when the Black person is not really stealing something, different things like that. And so overseas, I don't feel that way. I don't feel stereotyped. I don't feel like I'm being watched. People are just like, hi, you're welcome. So happy that you're here, and go about their way. If you need help, they'll help you and keep it moving. They're not expecting that you're stealing something, or they're not looking to see if you're going to steal something. I don't feel that at all. Never, ever have I once felt that living here in Thailand. It's just a night and day experience. And so Black women Black women are tired of that. Abroad, you feel free. You feel free to exist. You feel free to breathe. You feel free to just be you and not be on alert 24/7. I also feel really safe living here in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. I feel very, very safe. I can walk at night by myself. I don't really do that much these days, but I just feel really safe, you guys. I don't feel like I have to continue to look over my shoulders. Obviously, everywhere that you go, you should be very aware of your environment, very alert. I'm always aware of my environment. I'm like this, okay? My antennas are up. Where's the closest exit? If something were to happen, that is me. But in Thailand, I don't feel on edge. I just don't. I just don't feel that way. The paranoia that I used to have in the US, walking past a white van by myself. I don't have that here. Not saying that you shouldn't now. I'm just saying that the level of activity, the frequency and the level of activity and crime that happens in the US, it just does not happen here. I am not saying that crime does not happen outside of the US. Obviously not. I can't say that. I'm not saying that crime does not happen in Thailand. I'm not saying that. Crime probably happens everywhere. But I'm talking about the level and the frequency and the types of crime, right? Yes, here you may have some petty thefts, stuff like that. But the level of crime in the US and the random acts of violence, like you could be anywhere. Like your best bet is to not watch the news. But at the same time, you want to be aware of what's happening, right? If you look around you, the amount of random acts of violence is just crazy. Before we left the US, we had, I think, some mall incident, some school incident. I don't want to say certain words here because I don't want to be blocked or anything like that, but random. And we were living in Texas. So these incidents happened not too far from us. It's very scary because we're like, we have a family. I don't want to be out as a family at a mall or a movie theater and something pops off. Somebody's having a bad day and they just decide to pop off. So those things were always going through my head. To be honest, I was always thinking about those things. And I also was thinking about that in regards to school. Like maybe eventually if I decide to put my son in school, even though I was more for homeschool, nowhere feels safe. Church, it does not matter. And again, I'm not saying that things don't happen elsewhere, but the severity of it happening in the US is so much more. And so abroad, people realize that they feel much safer. They feel more at ease, more calm. Their nervous system is just more at ease. I personally feel more centered ever since I have moved here. I mean, I've been able to lose a lot of my swelling weight that I had in the US. I think it was a lot of the food too. Just really swole me up, man. I just swole up, especially postpartum. I was in that survival mode, just eating whichever, but the food also that I was eating was just not good for my body. Here in Thailand, I'm walking more. The food is fresher. I eat a lot more fruits and veggies, walking more and just I feel more at ease. And so losing weight, I felt like was a little bit easier. So that's also one of the reasons why I believe that more women, especially Black women, are deciding to move abroad. Now let's talk about healthcare, okay? Women are moving abroad because healthcare is not a financial violence, okay? In the US, I mean, the healthcare system itself, I'm not even talking about health insurance, but yeah, health insurance, but also the healthcare system can be so traumatic. It can be so traumatic. Like, I can't tell you how many women I have heard use that term about giving birth, right? How traumatic it was. And I really do believe that it's the healthcare system that has a lot to do with it, okay? And especially how Black women can be treated during birth. I think that has a lot to do with it. They are just in this stressed environment. Giving birth is it's intense, right? I won't say stressful, but it's already an intense process that requires a woman to be in a space where she feels safe and she can labor however she needs to labor, whether that's moving around, being on all fours, be in her zone, feel supported. Labor is already intense, but the US healthcare system does not, I don't believe that it properly supports, especially Black women. Let me say that. Okay. I can only really speak for Black women. I don't really think it properly supports us. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to have a non-hospital birth. I decided to either give birth at home or at a birth center, and we hired midwives and doula and we went that way because I wanted my birth experience to be very intimate, very special, and just non-invasive. And we decided to do that. But what I love about Asia as a whole, Southeast Asia in particular, since that's the region that I'm in right now, is the maternity care, the maternity support, the ability to choose a gentler birth. and have a supported postpartum birth experience, right? To have a true healing, holistic postpartum birth experience. It's just a thing here. It's the norm. It's not abnormal, you know? Good maternity, quality maternity care is not abnormal in Asia. Another reason why I believe that Black women are moving abroad is because they want to live. Okay. They want to live and they don't want to work until they die. They don't want to continue working until they die. So in the US, there's this hustle, hustle, hustle culture. Hustle, 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 work for 40 years. Then you retire on 40% of your income. Do you work 40 hours per week so that you can retire in 40 years on 40% of your income? But how do you retire on 40% of your income when there's inflation and nothing is going to be affordable anymore? And you just spent your entire life working hard, but when did you really get time to rest, relax, to breathe? That is why I believe that more women should take a step back from work, figure out how you're going to do it, save up some money, and take a step back from work for at least 6 months, maybe an entire year. If you've never done it before for more than 2 weeks, try it for a month and see how you feel. See how you were able to connect with yourself, your inner being. See what you've been able to learn about yourself, the things you love, the things you like. See how it reduces your stress level. I'm not saying that you should not work. I think more women should really explore doing things that they truly love. Like do the work you love. Work that does not necessarily entirely feel so much like work, but work that you're excited to do. Yeah, I'm not saying not work, right? But with being in this mundane, toxic work environment every day, you're driving for an hour, commuting for hours, you're stressed, you're drained, you come home from work, you hardly have time for your family, you hardly have time to, cook if you have to cook, look after your children, you're only spending a couple of hours. I want more women to know that that is not the end all be all and that there is another way. And if you're able to take some time away from work so you can spend more time with your family, spend more time to connect with yourself, I mean, do it. It is so, so worth it. The first time I took like a sabbatical was in 2022, and that's when we first came to Southeast Asia. It was in 2022. I had just decided to walk away from my flight attendant job after a year of thinking about walking away. And I was like, okay, finally able to do it. Business, is doing great financially. It just made sense. And as soon as I walked away, I decided, let me breathe. Let me take a sabbatical. So my husband and I, we went to Bali, Indonesia, and then we came to Thailand. And it was especially Bali, Indonesia, was one of the most therapeutic experiences of my entire life. And I think maybe at that time a seed was planted that, hey, you could live here. That was Bali in the time. But I did not realize 2, 3 years ago that we would be living in Thailand. I thought it would have been Bali. But, I needed that reset. I needed that reset after years of grinding between work and business, just grinding, grinding, grinding. I needed that reset. And I think everybody should experience that reset. It does not have to be in Asia. It does not have to be in Bali, but definitely, definitely outside of the United States of America. Definitely 100%. Yes, travel will open your eyes to how other cultures value rest, how they value community, how they value joy, um, how they value peace. There are some cultures, I think in Vietnam, they take naps at around like 2 p.m., the workers, okay? Even here in Thailand, too, a lot of times you'll see it. They'll just be resting, chilling, if they don't have any customers or anything like that. They're just relaxed, But in the US, is like, okay, what are you doing? But, it's always this rush. I remember when I used to work in corporate work at this financial institution, I would only get like a 30-minute lunch. But if you think about it, by the time you go out to get lunch to come back, I mean, what time do you have to eat? I would always bring my lunch. I was more so that type of person. I was really healthy and frugal and stuff like that. And anyway, it just made sense to me to bring my lunch to work. And even with bringing my lunch to work, by the time I heated it up, sat down to eat, that's like 20 minutes. You only have like 20 minutes in a full work day. and it was a lot. And there were some times when, because we would get so busy, it was a popular financial institution in that area. And sometimes we'll be so busy, and literally sometimes my manager would come and get me on my lunch break to bring me back like, so that I can get out and I can service like the members and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm on my lunch break. It's just this constant go. In other cultures, they value rest. Yeah, they value rest, and so until you leave the US, you'll truly understand that. Since moving abroad, it's like, my mornings are slower. Just life just feels good. It really does feel good. Um, and even though Bangkok is a city that is a little bit more busy, I still feel this calmness here. And also, I live in a community that is very, very peaceful and tucked away. So you don't even realize that you're like in Bangkok. There are no bikes driving around loudly or people honking their horns or anything like that. It's very peaceful. It's very quiet. And I absolutely love it. Now, Black women are done with waiting for permission. They're done waiting for the US to become livable. There are some people who say that, oh, we should just wait it out. We should just fight it out. We should be sticking it out. If things haven't changed for over 400 years, I don't know what make people think that is going to change in your generation or the next generation. It's not going to change. Things are just getting so much worse. Like things are getting so worse in every era that you could possibly think of. Politically, the racial tensions, the cost of living, the safety, the bureaucracy. There's a lot of things that is just getting so bad. Like just the culture, family culture is going away. Just so much that's going away. When I was in the US, I was always grateful to meet genuine people, like genuinely kind people, right? There are a lot of kind people in this world everywhere, right? And there are a lot of genuine and kind people in the US. But as a society as a whole, with the leaders of the country, with their value system, it does not make it easy for families, for women in general, Black women to live, to be quite honest. It's just not in favor of us. And I never thought that I would be really sharing this. In the US, I never necessarily experienced direct, like, racial, I guess racism is what I would say, but I have experienced some microaggressions. I have in the workplace, even in the military, you know? And so, yeah, it exists. It exists. I've heard a lot of stories and you see a lot of stories as well. And women are tired of waiting on permission for the US to become livable. Just leave. If it's not serving you and your family, if you don't feel like you're treated well there, it's okay to leave. You don't have to stay and suffer. Don't stay and suffer in silence. There is a big world outside. There is a big world. Okay? Go somewhere else and see how you're treated there. All right? Go where you feel welcomed. Go where you're treated well. All right? More women are choosing themselves. They're tired of trying to beg for time off. I remember when I used to beg for time off, and for that institution. And because I was like one of the youngest person there as well, the more senior people, they would want the same time off, like, over the holidays. And I couldn't get it. I would not get it because only so much people in that department could be off at a time, different things like that, which used to annoy me so much. So I was that person who would take a vacation every second that I got. I was so happy to be out of there on a vacation. I did not save time. I was not one of those people who saved time or carried over time. There was no such thing for me. Every hour of vacation time that I have, I was that person, guarantee. That would be using it. And from that time, I remember the first trip that I took outside of the US was like to Mexico. And oh my gosh, I was like, I have to do this every year. Mexico just felt like home. The culture, the people, the fresh fruits, the veggies. I was like, oh, this feels good. And so I knew at that time that I didn't know, but it just felt like okay, the US is kind of feeling out of place for me. And so that's why I encourage you to definitely go somewhere outside of the US to really experience what life can look like for you and can feel like outside of the US. But yeah, more women are tired of begging for childcare help or apologizing for just wanting more for themselves, wanting more for their families. When you move abroad, you see what's possible. You see women spending time with their families. You see women rested. You see women pampered. You see women in a more calm state, not overly stressed out with high anxiety. In the US, the word anxiety is so commonly used, right? But in other parts of the world, right? What I love about Southeast Asia, it's so calming and it's so peaceful. And a lot of women just seem so at rest, right? And so you will notice that you'll see children growing up without this constant pressure or chaos, and you'll see entrepreneurs thriving without burnout, entrepreneurs thriving with an actual community of other entrepreneurs around them. It's not like each man is an island, right? And once you get out of the US, you get to see that. And another thing, right? The last reason why a lot more women are, especially Black women, are deciding to leave the US is because they are ready for the soft life era that the US just won't give them. You know, there's this trend, and you'll see a lot of trending videos about soft life, the soft life era. And a lot of that you see, women buying luxury, they may be hanging out at a pool and things like that. But truly, outside of the US truly is where you can truly experience a soft life, because it's not just about the luxury, at least for me, right? Good quality living, a good quality life is not necessarily about the luxury, but it's feeling at peace, is feeling calm, is not feeling overly stressed, is feeling safe, is feeling like I can be present with my family, I can be present with my son, I can be present with my husband. I can do the things that make me happy. A broad softness is not necessarily something that you have to earn. It's just simply a way of life. And once you have seen it, once you have experienced it, you just can't unsee it. In Bangkok, in Thailand, I feel that freedom. I feel supported. I feel the freedom to grow my business, to be with my family. It just feels good. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be in Thailand forever, but it feels like a good place for us right now. We love visiting other countries like Malaysia. Malaysia may be next on our list. We'll see. Malaysia is very underrated. Let me just say this right now. If you're looking for a place to go, I'll talk about this in another video, but please do not sleep on Malaysia, especially if you're family friendly and you like calm, you like peace. Malaysia is such a great place. Even if it's KL, Kuala Lumpur, where there's like the city, KL still feels very calm and peaceful, and there's a lot of greenery still. The air honestly feels a lot cleaner too than Bangkok. But Malaysia is such a beautiful place, such a great place. The food is amazing. It is top tier, so many options, so family friendly. I mean, in Malaysia, you see a child every 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds, you see children out with their families. There's lots of things to do for children as well. And if you're into going out and just having fun and things like that, you can do that too. Malaysia is such an underrated place. And the women are pampered there too, okay? They don't play. Malaysia is, we've been there already, I think twice or three times now. It's just a place that we'll always go back to until we decide, maybe let's make this home for a while. But either way, the world is such a big place. And not because you really like one place, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stay there for the rest of your life, or not because one place seems to be trending or seem that everybody's moving there. It does not mean that it is a place for you. It may not be the place for you and your family. Maybe the place just for a season. But just do your research and just know that with moving abroad, it does not mean that you're choosing this forever location. Life is an adventure. Okay. The world is your playground. Think about it that way. Think of the world being your playground, and that you can spend a year here. You can spend a year there. It's fine. Even with children, it's fine. It's okay. It's okay. All right. So, um, Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So these are some of the reasons why I believe Black women are moving abroad is because they realize that they can have a better quality of life, a softer life, a peaceful life, a safer life, a more supported life, a life of ease and calm and serenity abroad. If you like this video, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and, of course, leave a comment. If you have any questions, let me know in the description below. Share this video with a friend who is thinking about moving abroad. Until next time, it's your girl Shy Bivia, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Be blessed. Bye.